And salutations, Serjavians. It's Kevin, also known as Serjay Svek, back with another stream. And today we are going to talk about something different. We're going to just talk about EDC and a bunch of other things. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And by the way, before I begin, I would just like to say Happy Easter to everybody who is celebrating this important holiday for those of you who do celebrate it. It is Sunday, April 17, 2022, 6:49 p.m. here, and the Serjay Svek Sunday Show. It's not really the formal title of this thing, but I just wanted to make it just something special. And I'm very happy that everybody who chose to be here decided to become a part of the stream on this Sunday. So we've got quite a lot lined up for you today. So we've got stuff like my favorite pocket knives, for instance, what I carry on my EDC keychain, what I have on my EDC pouches, for example. And also we're going to have a bit of a snack review just to lighten the load, because I know not everybody might be interested in the world of EDC. So we're also going to talk about some other things that might interest you as well, because food is also one of my passions. And yes, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Milas. Thank you very much for dropping by, sir. And I'm glad to see that you are now here in the chat. Okay, so let me just make sure everything's here. Is everything okay, Milas? Can you hear me well? I am not putting any music here for now because I originally wanted to put the music on, but unfortunately the cable of my headphones was over here on the table and I didn't want it to bother anybody. So yes, this is my way of ensuring that at least the table is clean, because we've got a lot of things to talk about for today. Okay, so it's all good. That's good to know. I need to silence my phone. Hold on. Yes, if there's any spam comments, please do. Milas, thank you very much. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin this stream. All right, so before we continue, we just want to establish first, what is EDC exactly? So what is EDC? Well, EDC is short for everyday carry. And everyday carry meaning the things that you need to bring with you anywhere that you go. So if you don't have these things with you, you would feel very uncomfortable. You would feel naked pretty much. Just like this wood textured table that I got here. Thank you very much for acknowledging this, Milas. I'm very happy that I actually have this, Milas. Finally having a nice clean space where I can put my things. As you say, you would like to lie down on it, but I would like to lie down the things that I think are very important to me in the world of EDC. So, as I said, EDC stands for everyday carry. The things that you would feel naked or nervous about if you don't have it. For most people, EDC begins with a cell phone. Cell phones are very, very important nowadays. You cannot imagine how things are nowadays if you don't have a cell phone of any kind. Most of the time they're a smartphone, but sometimes people still use feature phones like this. But whatever the features it contains, a cell phone is a cell phone. It still has its place in the modern day. And for me, I cannot leave home without a pen of any kind. I love writing poems, stories, whatever, notes, you name it, I like to write it. Certainly I can use my phone when it comes to writing things, but sometimes I just prefer to be old-fashioned. So definitely a pen is something that I need. And also, cannot leave without your wallet. I would just like to acknowledge the presence of Ren. Hey, Ren, thanks very much for dropping by. Good to see you. So for me, I would need a phone of any kind, a pen, and a wallet. For the longest time, this was my EDC, my everyday carry. If I didn't have anything of these, I would feel lost for the day. And especially my pens, because holy cow, I always tended to lose my pens for some reason. I was sick of it. So yes, this is what I considered my EDC for the longest time. So yeah. And I just like to acknowledge this comment here. I've just arrived from dinner. Yes, where is dinner, Ren? That sounds like a beautiful faraway land. And unfortunately, I do not need a feather and an inkwell, Milas. That is way beyond my expertise when it comes to writing. And Stola Wing, I would like to welcome you to the stream. Thank you very much for dropping by. And yes, for those of you who are new to the channel, I do stream at the same time at YouTube and Twitch. And I also do it on Twitter as well. If you want to visit, all of it is available on the Serjay Svek channel on YouTube. I am also available on Twitch. My name there is Serjay Svek Twitch. And search for Serjay Svek on Twitter. You can find the spelling of my name on the lower left corner of the screen. Okay, so we're going to talk about the first topic of EDC, which is pocket knives. Now, pocket knives are something that I only recently came into, but I have a bit of a long history with them. For a number of boys my age growing up, we were part of the Cub Scouts, and my brother was one of them. He had his own knife, but it looked to be one of those big Rambo knives that had the compass at the pommel end, and it looked pretty fierce because it had that huge blade and the serrations at the back, and then it was clipped, so it looked like your typical Rambo or Bowie knife. Even though I was part of the Cub Scouts in grade 1, I never was interested in it. I didn't understand it, so I never really attended the Cub Scouts. So yeah, it was pretty useless for me. And growing up, I never got to experience knives aside from the ones that are used in the kitchen. So that's the extent of my knowledge. However, last year when I started learning about EDC, I realized that a lot of people tended to carry pocket knives or multi-tools. So, of course, after learning how to shop in places like Shopee and Lazada, I decided to finally bite the bullet and buy a pocket knife. So there. Yes. And before we continue, you haven't heard of Cub Scouts in 10 years, Stolowing? Wow. Are they still going on? I want to know, because especially I'm old, so I want to know how the newer generation deals with Cub Scouts, if there's still a Cub Scouts of the Philippines. And Mila says, holy, imagine a Cub Scouts carrying a jungle combat knife. Well, apparently that's the knife that they use. And no, they're not called Ewoks. And I would like to say hello to Thelos. Thank you very much for dropping by. Appreciate it very much, Thelos, from YouTube. And seems you're a new face here. I hope you're doing well. And yes, Cyan, we're going to get to the Swiss knives in a minute. But before I continue, I just want to mention, for those of you who are new, we're going to be talking about EDC, or everyday carry. So how my EDC has evolved, especially in the past year, because for the longest time, my EDC only consisted of pretty much these things. So a pen, a cell phone, and a wallet. And maybe my lip balm. And my keys, but I don't want to show my keys. So there. Anyway, we'll proceed to the first topic, which is pocket knives. So pocket knives and Swiss Army knives, because even though I never got to hold a pocket knife of my own for the longest time, I was interested in those. There just seemed to be some kind of magic about the Swiss Army knife, and so I decided to finally bite the bullet last year, and then I got myself this. So this is my very first pocket knife. This is the Victorinox Tourist. And the features of the Tourist include the following. So it has your main blade over here. And then it has a pen blade. So you have two blades, one large and one small. And then you've got your can opener. And the tip of the can opener is very small, so it can actually serve as a screwdriver. So it can actually be what's this? It can actually be good for flat screwdriver. Excuse me. It can be used for flathead screws, or it can actually be used for Phillips screws. And this part here is your bottle opener. And this one also has a head that's very good for flathead screws. Oh, I'd just like to mention it has a half stop, which is great because it has a wire stripper. And if you need to remove the insulation of your wires, that's what you can use. So what you can do is there a wire I can demonstrate this with? Hold on. Let me get it from my handy dandy drawer set. I do have a lot of comments coming in, and I appreciate them. I'll just get back to you in a minute. So just imagine that this is a wire. I don't have anything small enough right now. So what you would do is that you would trap the wire here in the notch. Let's just imagine it's a lot smaller than this. And then you would put the knife here, and then with a little pressure, you would turn the wire around so that the knife will cut the insulation, and that way you can remove it from the wire. So that's what you have. And yes, the bottle opener. It seems to be everywhere on multi-tools, the most important tool nowadays. I know a lot of people seem to complain about the bottle opener because, well, most bottles nowadays come with twist tops, but come to the Philippines and you will see that a bottle opener is still greatly appreciated. Tansan forever. And of course, at the back, we have the awl here, the sewing awl, with a hole here. So this one is something that you can use to pierce, let's say, leather. And you have a sewing awl, so you can put some thread in here in case you need to pierce and then make some stitches in your leather. And of course, the ever important corkscrew, which is very important during the Christmas meal of Noche Buena and the New Year meal of Medianoche. Funny story. My godfather gave me a knockoff of a Swiss Army knife way when I was a kid. But my parents probably, I don't know if it's because they did not trust me with a knife or they wanted to protect me from getting hurt, which is understandable. But they did not let me use it. I never got to carry it. And the only thing that we got to use this Swiss Army knife for was whenever Christmas would come along, and then we would use the corkscrew And that's it. That's it. And for the last part, you actually have these tools over here. So you've got your toothpick over here. I'll leave it up to you if you want to use it for your teeth or to remove the dirt from your shoes. And pair of tweezers. All right. So this is my very first pocket knife, my very first Victorinox, the Tourist. And if you want something a bit bigger, you can go to its bigger sibling. You can go to its bigger sibling, the Spartan. And this knife, from what I've read, or at least the Spartan, is what is like a modern take on the original officer and gentleman's knife made by Victorinox many, many years ago. So people who were interested in getting Swiss Army knives back in the day, especially military officers, or, you know, those who just wanted to have a multi-tool, would get something like this. And then the modern version of this is called the Spartan. And the smaller version, which is what you see here, is the Tourist. So I'll just put this over here. Okay. Now, before we continue, let me just go read the comments over here. So yes, I am a fellow Victorinox owner, Cyan. Yes. I wonder what Victorinox knives do you have in your collection? Because I've got a whole lot more. And yes, the I do appreciate the oval shape, Adora Bunny. If you want to get something that looks a little more like a knife, you can go to the 111 millimeter knives. Those look like the real knives that the Victorinox is making, and that is the size that is being used currently by the Swiss Army. So Victorinox really does supply knives for the Swiss Army, which we're going to go through in a bit. I do like to talk a bit about history just to regurgitate what I've learned. So that's why I'm making the stream, because it's long overdue. I feel like I just want to talk about what I know, what I learned, and maybe we can have a conversation about this topic. That's why it's called Conversations with Kevs. You know, we get to talk about these things. All right. So Soloing says, those are the kinds I've been wanting for a long time. The problem is, as far as I know, they're illegal to carry. Yes. The problem with pocket knives, at least here in the Philippines, is that we have very strict regulations. From what I've read, it's illegal to carry pocket knives of any sort. So it's not like you have to deal with things like in the United Kingdom or Great Britain, where it needs to be non-locking. So there's no lock to this. This is a slip joint knife. The only thing that's keeping it open or closed is the back spring over here. So just a sufficient amount of pressure will allow it to stay open or to close. So you have to use more pressure than the spring in order to close it or to open it. And then it has to be less than 3 inches in length. So we don't even have that. Any type of pocket knife is just illegal, from what I've understood. But from what I've seen, it is legal if in your line of work, if you can justify it, if you have reason. I think it's also the same in Great Britain too. If you can justify it, like if you're a butcher or if you work in construction, that sort of thing, it's more understandable to carry a pocket knife of whatever kind. Now, in the Philippines, however, I think it's the same. As long as you can justify carrying your chef knives, for example, then yes, feel free to do so. But from what I've experienced carrying pocket knives, so long as you're not waving it around and then pretending like, oh, look at this pocket knife over here, and then then so far from what I've seen, you're in the clear. As long as you don't bring it to places like the airport or to courthouses or something like that, you're fine. I think the present thinking is that as long as it's not, as long as you're not like using it as a weapon, or you're trying not to justify it as a self-defense tool, it's okay. But again, don't take my word for it. Just be careful about this. So there. We'll put that over here and then get back to the comments. And yes, I did mention bottle openers being the most important, but if there's no bottle opener, you can see how creative other people are in taking out the bottle caps. That's true. I've heard stories about people using lighters as an impromptu bottle opener. I don't know how people do it, but I'm surprised they would be able to do that. And yeah, I've heard about the story. So if you can use one bottle to remove the cap of another bottle, I'd like to see that too. That's a nice one. And yeah, well, gentlemen's knives, Milas, because you said they're sugarcoating it and calling gentlemen's knives. That's a separate category, which you're going to be talking about in a few minutes, because there are even things called gentlemen's knives, executives' knives, CEO knives. They have a certain special class to them, class, fanciness, whatever you call it, compared to something that's a bit more Spartan, like this kind of Victorinox Swiss Army knife, or any other pocket knife. So we'll get to those in a bit. Delos says, I don't use a toothpick in my Victorinox because I find it unhygienic. That's understandable. I wouldn't want to put that in my mouth. So it has its other uses too, but certainly not in my mouth. Mila says, I think it's better to have a box of those hybrid floss toothpicks. Yeah, that's it's also nice. It's also useful. And yeah, Stolowing gave up a script. I'm a lawyer. I need this Swiss Army knife because it has a portable stapler. Yeah, and yes, a lighter, apparently, I haven't done it myself, can be used to open a bottle. I mean, like you said, anything can be used as a bottle opener if you are creative enough. I could probably use this keyboard here as a bottle opener with the right amount of force and leverage. So, there. And yes, for the person who's selling buko juice, walking with his machete around. Imagine if he won't be able to walk with his machete around. Poor person. He won't be able to do his job. So yeah, definitely your concerns are very, very founded. So yes, Lamau, please don't. Please don't indeed. Okay, so this is my very first. Now, for people like Milas and Ren, who have known me for a very long time, they know that when I get into a new hobby, it's just like Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. So, naturally, I had to get something else. I got to get another one. So, this one is... I think this is the right one. Yeah. This one. This is my second Victorinox pocket knife, or Swiss Army knife, rather. This is the Pioneer X in Alux scales. So, Alux is short for aluminum oxide, and as you can see, it's very, very nice to touch with the bumps. Sometimes I would just, whenever I feel nervous, I would just rub it with my thumb. It feels very relaxing compared to the scales here. And that's a very big factor in what brought, that's a huge factor in what inspired the rest of my Victorinox collection. Because if you look at the Tourist here on the left, it has what we call Celador scales. So Celador is a plastic scale. And as you can see, I don't know if the camera can catch it. Even if it was in a box for a very long time, you can already see those tiny scratches that are forming. If you see that. So even if it's just been sitting in a box, it's already pretty scratched up. And I've heard stories about if you drop it it might pop off, or it might be melted by chemicals. There's a lot of stories about that sort of thing. So yeah, that's a problem with me when it came to the scales. Why is the camera not focusing? Hold on. Let me... Can you see it now? Okay, good. All right. So yes, Celador, though it sounds like a dwarven metal, it has its uses. It's a lot cheaper, it's a lot lighter, and you always have access to the scale tools, such as the toothpick and the tweezers. And in some models, you can even have a ballpoint pen and a flashlight. So those are the reasons why Celador remains a popular model. And of course, it's the signature red of Victorinox. But I like this. That has a lot of stuff in it, but I like this. So Alux or aluminum oxide. So this is my pick when it comes to Victorinox Swiss Army knives. And if you can observe, for a lot of the Alox or Alux models, they do not have tools at the back like the corkscrew. So you're only stuck with what you have here at the top. And this is my personal favorite of my Victorinox Swiss Army knives. So what does it have? It has its blade. And instead of a small blade, you have a reamer. I think it's the reamer or the awl. Sometimes I get the names mixed up. So this can be comparable to the awl that you have here on the Tourist. But I find this awl on the Pioneer X a lot easier, because that way, if you need to bore a hole in some wood, or if you've changed a size in your pants and you need to make a new hole in your belt, then it's a lot easier to do it like this compared to this. So that's one point to the Alux Pioneer X. So we're done with this. And in the front, you have your usual bottle opener with a wire stripper and flathead screwdriver. And on the other side, you have your can opener with the flathead screwdriver or Phillips screwdriver. And what makes this the Pioneer X is not, the X does not stand for excellent, even though it is, or extreme, even though it could be. The X is for the scissors, which form an X shape. Dun, dun, dun. All right. So yeah, really, really amazing scissors. Nice spring to them. Let me just get something. I love Victorinox Swiss Army knife scissors. This is paracord, 550 paracord. Cuts it no problem at all. Paracord is very hard to cut with a regular pair of scissors, so no problem with that. Extravagant, extraordinary, X-Men, whatever the X is, but these scissors are the X factor that make the Pioneer X my personal favorite of my Swiss Army knife collection. So yes, this is the Pioneer X. Now, the funny story is that this Tourist and its bigger sibling, the Spartan, are modern takes of the officer's knives, officer and gentleman's knives from way back in the day. The Pioneer is the modern civilian version of the original soldier knives made by Victorinox. So it pretty much had the same set. It had the same openers, it had the knife, and it had the awl here, but there were no scissors. So everything here except the scissors. So if you want, so this tool set is really, really similar. It's just that everything was focused on just one side. So this is my personal favorite, the Pioneer X Alux. Now, you would think that my collection would stop there, but of course, it doesn't. And especially since this is Alux, it's really, really heavy. If you were to compare it to the Tourist, this is like a brick in your pocket. So, yes, one looks like a red toy car, one is a tank, and it feels like a tank in your pocket, especially if you have a bunch of other stuff in it. So, it's really, it's not always suitable, especially if you're wearing slacks and stuff. So, not easy to carry this, and that's why I thought of getting slimmer models and with more varied tool sets. I need to drink. Excuse me. But wait, there's more. Introducing the Victorinox Bantam in Alux. So, the Bantam is wafer thin. Look at this. It has a single layer only, and if you were to compare it to the Pioneer, you can see that the scales are a lot thinner. They're a lot thinner in comparison to the Pioneer. And this is pretty much a gentleman's knife because of the very small size, the super thin profile. If you wear slacks with these, you don't have to worry about it showing up or making a bulge in your pants pocket. And the problem with this is that there is no lanyard hole like here. So if you have very shallow pockets, chances are this is going to fall off. And I've heard stories about people with their Bantams ending up in the washing machine because it's so light. See? It's so light. You don't have to worry about it. It's just going to be gone. And the only tools that this has are the blade and the combo tool. Now, the combo tool, I actually made a video about the combo tool before on my YouTube channel, so you can check it out. So what the combo tool does is that it combines the flathead screwdriver here, and then this very tip here can be used for Phillips screwdrivers, the cross-shaped ones. And then this curved part here can serve as a bottle opener and a can opener. Wow! What a combo! And of course it has the wire stripper here. So unlike the can opener here, excuse me, unlike the can opener here, this is a more traditional can opener that you might find where you have to go forward. This one, this can opener, you have to go back. If you're right-handed like me, that means you would have to go clockwise. This one, you would have to go counterclockwise instead. So, yep. That is the combo tool. So if you want something super pocket-friendly, so pocket-friendly that you might end up losing it because of how pocket-friendly it is, this is it. This is the Victorinox Bantam in Alux. And there's still more. There's still more. So let me find it. Hold on. Just find it before we get to the next segment. Thank you very much, Stolowing. I hope you can make it. It's gonna be a long one, so take your time. Enjoy your dinner. Ah, there you are. Okay. Apologies. I have to... Some of these are still attached to their keychains. Okay, so this one is another one that I use for my keychain. This is the classic SD, the classic SD in Alex. So this is the shortest one in the list. Let me just compare. Hold on, please. So this one comes in 58 millimeters. Compare that to the Bantam, which is 84 millimeters, and the Pioneer, which is 93 millimeters in length. So this is very, very small, very pocket friendly, even better on a keychain. And this is the Alex version of the classic SD, which is probably one of the most famous, or possibly the famous, signature Swiss Army knife by Victorinox. So what does it have? It has its pen blade. It has a nail file. Pardon me. Let me start over. It has a pen blade. Very, very small, but very useful. It has its nail file. So it has a pebble style nail file. Great for your nails. And it has a flat head over here that can be used as a screwdriver in a pinch. And it has scissors. So, give me a second, please. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Just had to sort some things out. So again, scissors. Small, but powerful. Just like earlier, this is some 550 paracord. It's a bit small, but it can cut it very easily. No problem. So even if it's a bit short, no problem at all getting through to it. Gosh, the cleanup here is going to be so hard. And Thella says, I have one too, but in translucent pink. That's a popular color. And yeah, the great thing about the classic SD is that if you're getting the Celador scales, it comes in a bajillion colors and designs, trust me. You would probably lose your mind trying to gather all of the different colors and textures that they got. One of the ones that I've seen in the Victorinox store in Mega Mall is that they have the 12 Eastern zodiac animals. So if you're a horse sign or dragon sign, whatever. Just pick one. You've got one for you. So that is the classic SD. This version is in Alex. Of course, the bug still bit me, so I got another one, which is a very popular gentleman's knife as well. This is the Victorinox Cadet. Now, Alex models normally come in silver by default, compared to the Celador models, which are in red. So this one is a bit more special to me, because red, as you may know, is my favorite color. And this Cadet has the blade, it has the openers, can opener, and bottle opener, and then in reverse, I acknowledge that, and then it has a nail file with a pointed tip that can be used as a nail cleaner. So this is more of a grooming knife, if you want, because some people are able to cut their nails with a knife. I don't want to do that. I'm scared of that. I'm terrified of that. The closest thing that I can do is use a pair of scissors. And for those of you who have not seen it yet, I have posted a video here on YouTube where I did use the scissors on this classic SD to cut my fingernails. It's a bit tricky, but it can be done. But using the knife itself to cut my fingernails is it's a different proposal altogether. The Cadet is a pretty popular model, especially if you also want it to wear it in your slacks. It's really, really thin. The scales are really thin. Again, in comparison to something like the Pioneer, which has very thick scales and a lot of tools. So if you don't need scissors and you don't need like a reamer or anything like that, you just need something that might be good for your fingernails, then this is a good alternative, especially compared to the Bantam, because this one, the Cadet, has a lanyard hole that you can use, and you can also attach it to your keys. The Bantam does not. So it's up to you. And then, I swear this is the last in my collection. Okay. This one is the same size as the classic SD, but look at how thick this one is. This absolute unit, this tank of a 58mm Swiss Army knife. So this new one is the Mini Champ in Alex. So this is something that you would use, or probably what I would recommend, if you don't want any other knife and you just want to carry something on your keychain and that's it. Sorry, let me rephrase that. If you don't want to carry any kind of multi-tool in a larger size and you only just want one, while people would gravitate to the classic SD, I would recommend this, the Mini Champ in Alex, or the Celador Mini Champ as well. So what does the Mini Champ have? It has a bunch of tools that can be found in larger Victorinox knives, and some that are special and unique. Let me explain. So it has the same scissors. It has the blade as well. And in the middle here, if you open this up, you have a combo tool as well. But this combo tool is different from the one that you would find in the Victorinox Bantam, as you can see here. So the one in the Mini Champ, has a bottle opener function over here, this middle notch here, Sorry, let me adjust the focus. There. So the combo tool here has the bottle opener here at the bottom. Here is the wire stripper. And this one is the Phillips screwdriver, the cross. And the best part about this is that it is magnetized. So especially if you're working on a very small set of screws like those for your glasses or whatever, the last thing you want to do is to lose the screws themselves. So you can attach, make sure that when you work on this, you'll never have to lose those screws again, because that is such a pain at such a tiny size. So unlike most other, let me rephrase that. So that is the first layer. So let's go to the other side. This one also has a nail file. Oh boy. The problem with the Alex ones is that even though they're a lot rougher, especially for these, they're pretty thin, so I can drop them pretty easily. But unlike if I were to drop the Celador ones, I don't have to worry about the scales popping off. These are just like, it's okay. No problem at all. No problem at all. So if you... Let me fix the focus again. So on the left, this one here is the nail file of the classic SD. So it has a flat tip that can be used as a screwdriver. This one is the one for the Mini Champ. So it has the pointy end, which is similar to the nail file on the Victorinox Cadet, which you can use for cleaning your nails. And then it has a couple of other unique tools, such as this one. So the flat head that could be used for the screwdriver went here. And this is a ruler. It comes in both centimeters and inches. And the great thing about this is that this tip acts as zero. Because some rulers, the zero, you have to move it like maybe a bit after the tip. So here is zero. So if you want to measure the amount of rice that you want to put, then shake it. And then you can check how deep is your rice, how deep is your water. Because if you feel like doing that, or if that's how you cook your rice, that's fine. I prefer measuring it by the number of cups that I use, but you do you. And then, so just a second. Okay, we'll go to this one here. So this is what they would call like an emergency knife. This is called the emergency knife. No, it's called the small blade, or the emergency blade, as you could see over here. And it has a different shape compared to the classic shape of the blade here on the classic SD. So it has a straight cutting edge and then a curved end, as you can see here. So this one is closer to a drop point or a spear point. This one is a Wharncliffe blade. So Wharncliffe blades are differentiated by having this very, very straight edge here, and then a straight edge here that gradually curves towards the tip. So this is, each one has its uses. Let me find a way to demonstrate here. So, side demonstration. and then I'll go to reading the comments. Oh no, I'll finish demonstrating the tools, and then I'll read the comments afterwards. So let's go first to demonstrating why a blade like this is better for precise cuts. And that's the thing that makes this blade special. We're jumping ahead a bit. This is the Splatoon player's knife. This is the CRKT squid. And it has a drop point blade. As you can see, it has a nice belly or curve here. Makes it an excellent slicer. Great for cutting cheese and ham. So this is going to be one of my sample blades here. We'll put it up against one of my newer acquisitions. This is the Japanese Higonokami. So this is a traditional Japanese pocket folder, and we'll get into more detail on this later. So for now, we'll talk about why I mentioned these two blade types. So this one is more similar to the small or emergency blade that I demonstrated in the mini champ. So it's a bit closer in blade shape. Similar thing, very straight slicing edge, and then straighter spine that goes into a curve here. So the reason why this is good is because if you look at the Higonokami, it really looks like one of those classic utility knives or box cutters that we have. You know, the ones that come in plastic shells that you press slide forward and then it comes out like that. Same principle. So this is something that you would use for more precise cuts compared to this. Why? If you look at the bubble wrap, I marked 2 lines over here. Now I'm going to cut this line over here with the squid. So what happens is that if you want to cut from this point up to this point with a knife like this, you would most likely have to bend like this so you can actually draw and then end. So it's going to be very uncomfortable for your wrist, especially if you have to do this all day. So what would most likely happen is that you would have to slice it, but if you slice, or if you start from here and you try to slice, it might not end up where you want it to be. So I'll demonstrate. Let me fix the focus. So this was the cut made by the squid. As you can see, it started a bit before the line, and then when I finally ended it, it ended quite a bit after the line itself. Sorry if the camera doesn't really focus, but as you can see, it's not really the most reliable in making a precise cut. It's a great slicer, but for precision, I probably wouldn't want to go for a blade like this in my experience. Now we'll try the Higonokami or Higo knife when it comes to this. So I'm now going to cut this line over here. So instead, because of the shape of the blade, it's a lot easier to make cuts, just like your box cutter or your utility knife. So minimal bending of the wrist. So I know, because with the point here, I know exactly when I will start and stop. No problem at all. So come on, focus, focus, focus. Ah, LG, what is wrong with you? There, finally. So on the left, you have the cut made by the squid. Again, it started a bit before, and then when I finally ended it, because of its thick belly, it stopped quite a bit after the line. Whereas here, with the Higonakami, it started right where I wanted to, and then it ended right where I wanted to, or at least with a minimal amount of going over. So using a blade shaped like this is very useful if you want to get precise cuts. Which is exactly what this knife or this blade is offering in the mini champ. And now the next tool is what they call it's called a cutter. Well, it's kind of hard because the names are a bit different. It can be called like a cut and picker tool. And what this would do is normally you would use this to open, when you're opening medicine bottles, you can go peel the plastic ring around the medicine bottle, and then if you need to, you can stab into the cotton ball inside and pull it out. However, this has a more modern application, and then it can be used for opening clamshell packaging such as this Opinel box or package. So what you can do is that with this hook, you can put it in here. So, and then pull it. Yes, there we go. You see, it was able to cut through the package, no problem. I think that more multi-tools should have this kind of feature, this box cutter feature, because most of the time, if you're not going to use the knife, you would use this. This is perfect for for cutting packages, especially this accursed clamshell packaging that takes forever to cut normally with a pair of scissors. And then the last tool that I want to show you on the mini champ is what they call, oh, my mistake, sorry. Now I remember. This thing, this tool, while it can be good as a clamshell opener, it is actually called an orange peeler in the Victorinox website. So just letting you know, if you want to, you can just drag it across the peel of an orange, and then it'll help you peel it more easily. I suppose in the Philippines, this has more applications as a mango peeler. If you're the type who doesn't want to cut it into 3 pieces, you just want to peel it up and then eat it whole, because some people like to do that, that has its uses. Now, this is the last tool that I have here. This is the cuticle pusher. And it had a previous application of sorting medicine, and then also like for very small doses of powder, you could be used for like measuring a very small doses of powder or grains, for example. But for now, it can be used as a cuticle pusher. But for me, what I like to do is with this is that it can be a very small prying tool. Let me explain. You know, you know all about these split rings here, especially for me, how difficult it can be to get it open because of my short fingernails. So instead, what you can do is that you can put this in the middle. There. So it's a lot easier to put your lanyard in here or to remove this split ring from the object. So this is a great thing that you could use it for. Or you can also use this. I mostly use this for removing staples. Just slide it under the staple and then turn it sideways and then remove it. No more tearing of paper, no more struggling to remove it with very short fingernails. Just use this. So I think if you only want one multi-tool and you prefer to keep it on your keychain only, get this. Get the Alex Mini Champ. Now, if you want something with a little more use, you can get the Alex, or rather the Mini Champ, in Celador scales, because you would have your usual tools here, your toothpick, your tweezers, and you could also get a ballpoint pen, and depending on the model, you can also get a flashlight as well. So if you want more versatility and a lighter form factor, you can get the regular Mini Champ or the Midnight Mini Champ. Or if you're like me and you want something a little more sturdier, get the one in Alex. How is everybody doing? My goodness, this is only the first topic. This is only the first topic, so yes. Let's go read those comments now, shall we? Yes. Thella said, Sharp one looks like a shoe blade. Yeah, it really does look like a shoe blade, doesn't it? Yeah, it's typical of the Warncliffe or sheep's foot blades. There we go. Thella says, I'd rather have the Mini Champ, but the classic SD fits in my pockets very well. I don't know why women's pockets are too tiny. Yeah, that's the problem, you know. If it comes to that, it would be a lot better for women to have bigger pockets, or even just pockets in general. I've heard horror stories of women having to endure the fact that they have fake pockets in their jeans. You could probably verify this, Stelos, because there's nothing worse than wanting to put stuff in your pockets only to find out that it's not there. Terrible. Milas says, the squid knife makes me feel like it fits in a Navy SEAL's hands. True. And Sashimi says, hey, Kevin, stab, gasp. Well, I know these knives are tools. So if you think about stabbing someone with these, good luck. Because these are slip joint knives. They don't lock. So if you attempt to stab anything with them, good luck, because chances are, if the force acting upon here is too much, it'll probably fold back on your fingers. So you are the more likely to get hurt using this as a weapon. So repeat after me. Knives are tools. Knives are tools. Knives are tools. Thella says, I don't have a knife in my EDC, but I do have a box cutter, the Gerber EAB Lite. Oh yeah, that's a pretty popular one. I've been reading about that in places like Tactical Asia. The Gerber EAB Lite is like a folding knife version of the typical box cutter that we have, and it comes with replaceable blades. So great choice for an EDC. Pretty low profile. People probably won't be asking you why you carry it because it's a lot less threatening than a knife, even for something as small as these. Hydration check. Whoa, I have an Opinel too, but the 8s. Ah, yes, that's a great one. Opinel is a perfect brand. We will get to that shortly. So we're just clearing my Victorinox collection before we get to the other pocket knives. Fellow says, sorry, Sashimi says, can I peel my grapes with that? You can try. I never peel my grapes anyway. I just pop it, wash it, pop it in my mouth. No problem. I don't even want to peel my apples actually, but it's just that it's very hard to remove the wax that's covering the apples. Don't you feel that sometimes? Especially if you buy it from the supermarket, the wax just never leaves nowadays, even if you wash it for a very long time. And that's where all the nutrients are, in the peel. But I'm not saying that you should be eating a banana peel, even though there have been recipes using banana peel. I still might not want to eat it. Okay, and we have I'm Pancake, by the way. Happy to see you. Thank you very much for dropping by on the stream. I think you're a pretty new face here, so welcome to the stream. We're going to talk about pocket knives and EDC. Let's just see which gives in first, my voice or my water. Okay, so we're moving on to the last one in my collection of Victorinox knives. This is the Pioneer, and this is special because it is the 2018 Berry Red edition. So for a few years now, Victorinox makes special colored editions of their Alux. So as I said, it normally comes in silver. This one is the Berry Red that came in 2018. So there are usually 3 models that will get the limited edition colors. The Pioneer being one of them. The next one is the Cadet. And then for that year, the Classic SD. But the red of this Cadet is like the regular red. This one is the Berry Red. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but the Berry Red is a little brighter compared to this one. So the only reason why I wanted to get the Pioneer is because, well, it's red. Plain and simple. Not a very fancy reason. I just like red stuff. And if I could, I would get the red version of the Classic SD. If I could, I would. But that would mean spending even more. And if I want to, I would like to get the red version of the Pioneer X. But that is exclusive to Knife Center, the website. So buying it from a foreign place, dealing with shipping costs, maybe in the future. So Pioneer, same tool set as the Pioneer X, but this one does not have any scissors in it. So if you compare, it's the Pioneer here is thinner, and not only thinner because it doesn't have that extra layer for the scissors, but even the scales are thinner. So that means it's a lot more pocket friendly than the tank-like scales here on the Pioneer X. So it's pretty much up to you. If you want to carry scissors, go for the Pioneer X. But if you don't need scissors, but you would like to maybe use the reamer on this one, then go for the Pioneer. If you want something a lot thinner and a lot smaller size, go for the Cadet. And then if you really want something that won't make a bulge in your slacks, go for the Bantam. If you want to hang something on your keychain with a lot of uses, go for the Mini Champ. And if you really want something on your keychain, but you don't need all those tools, get the Classic SD. So this is my collection of Victorinox knives. But wait, there's more. Just, you know, people like them neat, so I'll just put it here anymore. Okay, there's that. Now, Thella says, you buy a $50 item and the shipping is 100, so I just don't if it's not in Asia. Fair point. You know, I actually just bought a knife from Amazon. I'll probably make a video about it one day, or when it comes. It's called the Rough Rider Sunfish. It's a huge knife. When I say huge, it's wide. So it's probably like the width of this. And because of that, the knife, the folding knife, is very wide too. So you can cut a huge amount of cheese with that. You could probably cut a Parmesan wheel with that. But for some reason, the blade still manages to be less than 3 inches. So yeah, it's a thick boy. It's a really thick boy right here. So this is just an approximation of how thick the handle would be. And you can imagine how thick the blade will be when it comes. So if you want to see my video on that and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to the Serjay Svek YouTube channel. If you're worried about the name, check it out over there in the lower left corner of your screen. I also stream on Twitch, and I'm actually streaming this right now on both my YouTube and Twitch channels. And if you want the links, you can find them on the descriptions of my YouTube videos or on the About page of my Twitch. Okay, so going back to that sunfish, going back to Thelis' concern, the knife itself is like $18. If you go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, it's on sale. It's only at $9. But on Amazon, it's $18, give or take, and the shipping is like 30, 40, no, 20 something, but it just adds up to $40. So why did I get it? Because it's just a weird thing. I like weird things, so that's why I got a lot of these, because these are a bit unusual. Why would you want to carry it when you just need to get one? Because I'm me. I can't just have one thing. And if it's very unusual, I want to have it. Practicality be darned. Okay, so we're moving from the Victorinox. Let's move on to our other pocket knives. Okay. So this is the one that I introduced in my last Splatoon stream. This is the CRKT Squid. This is CRKT, short for Columbia River Knife and Tool. And this is a Lucas Burnley design. It's also sharing the same name as his custom knife, also called the Squid. So you could see here, Squid Burnley design. It has a drop blade, and this is the black stone-washed finish. So very nice, stainless steel, less than 3-inch blade. So it's a bit stubby, but for most tasks like opening packages, maybe cutting up fruit, this is a great thing. This is a 3-finger knife, or maybe 3.5. So in order to give myself a better grip, I made this snake knot lanyard here with the hole so that I can attach it to my pinky for a better grip, and if ever I let go, it won't fall off. So there. Very small, very handy. I love it. I love this thing. This has a special place in my heart. This is my first true pocket knife. It's not a multi-tool, it's a pocket knife. It just does one thing, which is cut. And cut it does. And why would I want to get this when I already have a whole bunch of blades here from my Victorinox Swiss Army knives? Well, this is really great when it comes to taped packages. What do I mean? Let me adjust the focus again. Let's use the bandsaw for this one. So as you can see, the finish here on the blade, it's very, very clear and shiny. You could see the Logitech here. Say hi, guys. Hello. So you can see the reflection here. It's very clear. Whereas with a stone-washed blade, it's very rough. It's like the difference between a matte picture and a glossy picture. If you're still actually going to the photo studio to get your pictures done. So this one, as you can see, I don't know if it can catch on the camera, but this gets even things like fingerprints easily. So this is something that you really have to wipe down after every use. Compared to this squid here, no problem at all. So let me get that thing here. Okay, so I've got this taped box over here. So with the squid, I just put it in here. Cuts without a problem. And the best part, barely any mark. Just this line here. It can be removed with just a little bit of wiping with a cloth, no problem. Now, if I were to use the Victorinox over here, cuts easily as well, no problem at all. There's actually no problem with using the blade on this to cut boxes, packages. But let's keep cutting the tape on this. Just give me a minute. If this were a montage, I would be fast forwarding right about now. So you could see, I don't know if there, you could see it already has some gunk over here on the blade. If you compare it to the squid, barely anything at all. But here, this is the problem. This is my problem with Victorinox blades. It gets gunk much more easily. And the thing is, I don't always have like a cloth or anything. So if I need to cut and then go back or leave or something like that, I would fold it back. Or rather, I would try my best to wipe it down, but there would usually still be some gunk on it. And then when I fold it back, it's going to become sticky inside, and it's just going to get worse. So that's why when it actually comes to cutting things, I don't use the knife on my Victorinox. As you can see, look at that. Look at how dirty it's become. So that's a problem when I use the knives. If it were food, if it were paper, no problem. I could use this. But if I were to open packages, especially with tape, use this. Much, much better. Now, I'm going to remove this. So I learned before that, let's say, alcohol and tissue is not actually good for this. You can even use dishwashing soap, but it's not gonna work all the time. So what you need is some WD-40. So spray it on the blade, wipe it down, it should be good. Let's go do that right now. And if you don't have WD-40, or if you want to try something a bit different, this is some mineral oil. And the great thing about mineral oil, or at least this one, is that it's food grade. So you don't have to worry about using the knife afterwards to cut your food. So we'll use that instead. Just pour a bit here. Let's do it on screen so you can see. So just a drop of mineral oil on the blade. Give it a good wipe down. Just be very careful. You don't want to get cut yourself. Like all good things, sometimes they take a bit more time. It's a bit cleaner, but it's still not where I want it to be. So we're going to have to go to the WD-40. Whoops! I thought it was going to be cool by saying, yeah, you got to use mineral oil. But no, there's a reason why people recommend WD-40. So just use the nozzle here. Please don't get on the table. Oh, that was close. I'm more terrified of of spraying this, of using this thing than the knives themselves. And the great thing about this WD-40, you can actually buy it from Family Mart. I did not know that. It's a bit more expensive, but you can buy it from Family Mart. So let's just wipe it down a bit. So just take a look at that. Let me fix the focus. Look at that. Nice and clean. Nice and clean. So yeah, if ever you get tape gunk on your blade, whatever blade it may be, give it a wipe down with some WD-40 and tissue paper, and it should be good as new again. Just so you know, all the stuff that I'm showing here on the video of the stream will be cut down into more reasonable videos, so that's why I'm trying to demonstrate as many things as possible, so that when I edit it, we can cut it into like little bitty bits that are a lot easier for the viewers to watch. So now we'll just read the comments real quick. Miles says, this squid here is another sexy knife. Just love the way the designs curve like that. Yeah, there's a very nice belly on this, very nice curve. This is a drop point, so it's not centered. It goes a bit lower than the center, and then look at that blade. It's perfect for slicing. And then Thela says, I think people buy stonewash so it doesn't create glare. Yeah, that's also another thing. You don't want to bring like a really shiny, scary knife. So if the glint of the knife will catch people's attention, better that you could use something like this. Although, since the blade is also black, and this is black too, this still might scream tactical for some people. So just keep that in mind when you choose to buy this. But for me, I'm fine with my squid. I love my squid. Despite its small size, it holds a lot of power. And for those of you who play Splatoon, you're reminded of the head of the squid. And if you're hungering for adobong pusit right now, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. So this is... Just a second, fix the focus. So this is my first true pocket knife, the CRKT squid. Okay, we're gonna move to... I think you're gonna appreciate this one, fellows. So... Okay, I did a bad job of hiding these. These are my favorite. Dead simple, or one of my favorites. Dead simple, so beautiful, and scary sharp. And when I say scary, I mean scary. So, just a second. Focus, darn you. So yes, welcome to the stream. These are my Opinel knives. So these are French knives. So in the same way that the Victorinox and Wenger knives are icons of Switzerland, Opinel is an icon of France. One of the two, or one of the few famous brands in France. The other being Duk Duk. I'm not sure if Duk Duk is a brand or a model, but yes. Opinel, though, is one of them. And it comes from Savoie, France. And like I said, it's a dirt simple knife. You would love this, but it's scary sharp, trust me. This is the number 8 Trekker, and the numbers are actually the length of the knife for most of the knives in millimeter. Was it millimeters or centimeters? In centimeters, I think. So yeah, so this is the number 8. So it's called the Trekker because it has a little a hole drilled here for a lanyard. Others don't. So if you want to open your Opinel, what you got to do is that you have to get past the Vibrolock ring over here. So you just twist it, make sure that the groove is visible, then you just pull, and to keep it safe, twist it again. Now it is locked. And if you put it back, you can't pull it out. So it's very secure. However, this Vibrolock is only visible on models 6, this is the 6, all the way to 12. 1 to 5 are small enough that they don't need the ring. So let's open this and look at that. So this is what it looks like. This is the Opinel Inox. So similar to Victorinox, Inox is stainless steel. If you want a different model, they have the Opinel Carbone, which is carbon steel. Carbon steel is really, really sharp, much sharper than this. But the problem is you have to take even more care of it because carbon steel needs to be oiled after every use because it rusts almost immediately. Which is why I got the Inox version, which is stainless steel. You don't have to take care of it so much. It's a lot more reliable for someone who does not want to do a lot of maintenance on their knives. Normally, these knives would just come in a simple wood finish, but these are colored for the Trekker series. At least in Forged.com, they can come in either red or blue. And Forged is a store also available in the Philippines. You can go to them in Shangri-La or Mall of Asia. And these Opinel knives are dirt cheap. Dirt easy to use, dirt cheap. All of these, or most of these, come in less than 1,000 pesos. The only thing that makes this expensive is that it comes with this leather pouch, but without it, it would be less than 1,000 pesos. Trust me, it's great. These are great as gifts. Some people would like to give Victorinox Classics or Classic SDs as gifts, but if you want to introduce them to pocket knives, get them in Opinel, I think. Very easy to use, scary sharp. And I keep saying scary sharp because you know why? I was sharpening my blade, and take a look at this red spot on my finger. I don't know if you could see it. There, you see that red spot in my finger? I was doing a paper test, so I was cutting some paper with a knife, and unfortunately, it took that skin off my finger, and I didn't even feel anything, and there was no bleeding at all. I just cut the paper, and then I saw, wait a second, what is that thing that's hanging off the paper? And then I realized that's the skin on my finger. And I was like, oh, normally, if I had a blunt knife, I would be like, ah! But for this one, I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not so bad. So yeah, again, scary sharp, great bargain, Opinel from Savoie, France. This is the number 8. And I'm actually not using this anymore because the handle is really, really thick. So keep that in mind if you want to use an Opinel knife. If you were to compare it to the Pioneer, it's sort of similar, very wide. But when you get to models like the Cadet is way, way thinner, way more pocket friendly. So this one, while I love the red, unfortunately, I can't always carry this in my pocket. So this one, I chose to give it to my sister because she would have more use for this when preparing food. Instead, I exchanged with her Opinel. This is the Opinel 6. This is the smallest Opinel knife that you can get with the VeraBlock ring. As you can see, so 6 centimeters. Compare it to the 8 Trekker. Big difference in knife length and handle size. Much, much smaller on the 6 here. This one, this 6 actually is still below, is the last one that is still below 3 inches. So if you have laws that prohibit having a knife longer than 3 inches, the 6 is more advantageous to have. Even though for me, it's pretty small. If you were to compare it to my original choice, which is the 8. But it'll do. It'll do. And my last Opinel is ironically called my first Opinel. So, as you can imagine, Opinel knives have this curve up here. It's like a clip point that you would find in a Bowie knife, or like the knives you would find Rambo uses. So for some people, this can be considered pretty threatening and not the friendliest kind of knife to see. So instead, if you want to get something a little more friendly for those who are not familiar with knives, you can get the My First Opinel. So it has a curved tip over here, so there's no pointy end here. It's perfect for children, and it's perfect for those who work in an environment where people are not really that forgiving for knives. But it still is very, very sharp. And you know what? This is a lot better for putting my peanut butter on my bread compared to this. So if you want something, let's say for your office lunchbox, I would recommend using this. So keep this, especially for food. I don't think people would look a second, or I don't think people would give it a second glance compared to something like this. So again, all of these Opinel knives are available on forge.com, and lovely, lovely site, lovely, lovely people. Sponsor me if you can. The problem with Opinel knives, though, is that sometimes they're a bit stiff. So I had to put a little olive oil in the joint here so I can actually get this one to move. But if you don't want to oil your knife, here's something that you could do. You could do what is called the Savoyard tap, or the Opinel tap. But if you want to use the fancy French term, you can use it the coup de Savoyard. So Savoyard meaning a native of Savoie, France. So what it basically means is that you need to tap this end here. You can see there's a flat end here on a hard surface. And if the knife normally is too hard to dislodge, once you tap it, it will dislodge a bit, making it easier to pull out. And I will demonstrate it here. So not on the table, on this notebook. So let's just say it's so hard to pull off this knife. So what you got to do, just tap it. You see? Focus. As you can see, it's a bit more dislodged now from its original place. So now you can pull it a lot more easily. So again, this is what it looks like when it's in its default closed state. Let's just imagine it's very hard to pull out. So do a couple of taps. It looks like this now. A lot more of it is exposed, making it easier to pull out. And that is the Opinel tap, or the Savoyard tap, or the Coup de Savoyard. Essential if you want to get the most out of your Opinel knife. Okay, we're drawing near the end. We're gonna move on to this one. So all right, let's read some comments. Fellow says, I don't have the 6, but seeing yours makes me want one too. It's too cute. It really is. Very, very cheap. I think around 700 or less. Forge.com has them on sale right now. All their Opinel knives are on sale right now, so get them while they're still cheap. And you'd probably have to wear chainmail pants then if you want to casually put carbon steel in your pocket. Oh, Milas, you and your interesting ideas. I don't think you need chainmail, but just be careful with a knife. Carbon steel is no joke. And Milo says, did a quick history check, maybe if anyone out there is interested. Joseph Opinel was also one of the industrial innovator blokes of the era who was a peddler in his local village. Oh, my mistake. Joseph Opinel's dad was the peddler of the village. Ah, thank you for the correction. Okay, so thank you for sharing that, Milas. So we are done with these French knives. Let's move on to an American classic. So fix the focus first before we continue talking. All right. So this one is the Case knife. Case is a classic American brand, just like Buck. And this particular model is the Case Knives Medium Stockman with red synthetic handles. And I emphasize that because normally the handles on these things would be made of bone or wood. But for me, I don't get these knives for collecting them, keeping them in my drawers or in my shelves. No, I want to use them. So I got the cheapest one, which was the synthetic handles. And I believe this one is called the American Workman, because as you can see, the Case logo here has the American flag on it. And this one comes with multiple blades, similar to what you would find in a Victorinox Swiss Army knife. But it doesn't have things like a bottle opener or a corkscrew. It's just different blades that you can use to suit your situation. So what does the Case Medium Stockman have? First, it's got a clip blade over here. So again, it's called a clip blade because the spine here seems to be clipped on this part here. And the good thing about this is that this makes the clip point really, really good for piercing things. It's almost like a needle in that effect. So if you want a good piercer, you use the clip point. But most of the time, I use this to cut my Eden cheese because it's just the right length. And this one is still less than 3 inches long, just barely past 2 inches actually. So if you want a good cheese slicer, go for this. This is great. The clip point knife. This one is the sheep's foot blade. So it's similar to the Higanokami that I'm going to be showing you later, but so this one has a straight slicing edge, and then it has a straight spine that abruptly curves down here. So what that means is that it doesn't have a point to stab with. Well, you can, but it's going to be a lot more difficult than with, say, the clip point. So this isn't meant for stabbing. This is meant for draw cuts. So it's similar to what I did earlier with the bubble wrap. If you want precise box cutter like cuts, good for opening boxes or going through bubble wrap, you use this one. And this is the one that I've been using the most, especially whenever I get deliveries of new knives. Help, please help, I'm addicted. Okay, so yep, this definitely has its place, especially for my use case. And the last blade here, this one is called your Spay blade. Not Beyblade, Spay blade. You're not rolling around at the speed of sound with this thing. But this blade has a really abrupt belly over here, a bit of a clip here. And this was originally used for castrating animals or livestock. And this is essentially where the stockman term came from, because this came from people who had to work with livestock, and they had to use knives that had different blades for different situations. If you want to deal with precise cuts, you use the sheep's foot blade. If you need to use a piercer or a slicer with a little bit of length, you use the clip point. And if you want to castrate your livestock, or if you just want to cut something that needs to be cut without necessarily puncturing, let's say if you're gutting a carcass of an animal and you don't want to puncture the intestines, which would really affect the taste of the food, then you use the Spay blade. So yeah, this is my choice actually, especially if you're in an office or a situation where people are don't really look that kindly to knives, because this one in comparison looks, I think, the least threatening. It looks almost like a butter knife. So this one, I use this more when I'm in public places. I never use the clip point at all, because this one might evoke images of Rambo or a Bowie knife, so that's a no-go where I am from. And I chose to get a case because I really wanted to get a knife that had multiple uses in a pretty small package. So I don't have to carry a squid and then a Swiss Army knife just to get two different blade shapes. I have it all in one package with the case. The problem with the case, or at least the Stockman knives in particular, is that if you want it to be like pristinely beautiful, no problems at all, after just a couple of weeks in my pocket, the steel bolsters here are already, or the bolsters here are already showing signs of scratches. And it's just in my pocket, by the way. And with the Stockman model in particular, with its 3 blades, it experiences what we call blade rub, because the blades are so tight against each other. You could see here the sheep's foot blade is pretty much rubbing against the clip point here. And as a result, what happens is that, I don't know if you could see it on the camera. If you could see, come on, focus, camera, focus, do your job. There, if you could see this vertical line here, this line that I'm pointing at, this is where the spay blade was rubbing against the sheep's foot blade. Because they're so close together, whenever I pull up the spay blade, it rubs against the sheep's foot. So whenever I pull up the spay blade, this tip over here, it rubs against the sheep's foot, which is causing that scratch. So if you want your blades to be beautiful, fresh, without getting any kind of damage, I don't recommend you get the Stockman model in particular of a case knife. But for me, again, I want to use these knives. I actually wanted to return this knife because I didn't want the scratch or the blade rub. But for me, if I'm using it, I was convinced that, hey, you know what? When I'm done using these things, they're probably going to be ugly anyway. So might as well accept it. So apparently this is like almost like a feature of case knives, because there's still a large part of it is still like manually done. So just letting you know ahead of time that if you want to get a Stockman model in particular, expect the blade rub, expect a bit of difficulty in opening the knife. Also available in forge.com. Water break, and then reading some comments. I do have a Leatherman, actually, Milas, but I never want to get a karambit. I'm sorry, Thelos. I'm sorry, Milas, but I draw the line at karambit. I cannot justify that as a tool where I am from. I know karambits originally were designated as tools, but unless I want to do a raid, a cosplay of the assassin from the raid 2, then I have no justifiable reason to carry a karambit with me. Or if I want to do a Sam Fisher cosplay from Splinter Cell, unless I want to do that, I don't want to carry a karambit at all. I can still wiggle my way around carrying these, but a karambit, I doubt it. I doubt it. And I don't think I consider myself a prepper. I'm just a guy. I just want to modify my EDC. I don't consider myself a prepper in the sense of the word, because if I did, I would be, prepping my food, prepping for food or having a gun, and I am not yet ready to have a gun. It took me decades to get ready to get pocket knives, but I don't think I would like to carry a gun with me, because pocket knives can still be justified as tools. A gun is a gun, and it has its own problems. Okay, Raf. Hey, Raf, thanks for dropping by. Know of any good spring-assisted spay blades? I am so sorry. I can't think of any spring-assisted spay blades, but sorry. If you want, if you're fine with drop point, you can get the Squid, the CRKT Squid. This is the manual model with a thumb stud, but they do have an assisted opening one, and they also have the Squid XM, which is a larger model. This one is just barely after 2 inches, and the Squid XM is right a hair below 3 inches long. So that's my closest option. I know it's a drop point blade, but yeah, it's the closest thing I could think of. So yeah, Raf says, to be honest, having a good and optimized EDC can take you far without being a prepper. That is true. And Mila says, goodness, it's heck to get documentations for a gun. Stick with your knives. Yes. As far as I know, the only thing in the Philippines, at least, from what I've read, the only time you need documentation to carry a knife is if you wield a balisong or the butterfly knife. You need to get a permit for that. But to just carry a gun, you need a permit. And apparently that's really difficult to get. Thella says, I'm not a prepper either. I just don't know another word for a person that is interested in EDC. Fair enough. I suppose you could call it an EDCer. Or EDSer. My goodness. EDCer or EDSer. Why not? Let's make that popular instead. So we're going from Swiss and American and French and American again. Now we're going to move on to my latest one. Welcome back to the Higo no Kami, or the Higo knife. Whew. Oh boy. This is a lot up to going for it. So just a bit of a history lesson over here. Let me just fix the focus. So the Higo no Kami, or the Higo knife, if you look at it here, it almost looks like a straight razor. So this kind of reminds me of Sweeney Todd, actually. My arm is complete. So if you want to cosplay Sweeney Todd, you can get a Higo no Kami. And Higo no Kami is actually, from what I understand, Higo is a province in Japan in the olden days, and a Higo no Kami is like the governor or the lord of Higo province. So this is the origin of the name. And for the Higo no Kami, or the Higo knife, currently there is only one group or one person that is actually allowed to use Higo no Kami for the knives that he produces. The fifth generation person in the Nagao family. And once he passes, I do not know what's going to happen to the Higo no Kami designation. We don't know about any successors, but that's a whole different story. But Nagao, or the Nagao family, is the only one that has the rights to use the term Higo no Kami for their knife. If it's made by other makers, they would just call it a Higo knife. In the same way that Victorinox is the only one that's allowed to use the Swiss Army knife name, other makers of knives similar to this would just call it like maybe Swiss Army style knife, like that, to not get into legal trouble. So this one, I wanted to get this from the website that is run by the Nagao family, but they don't have an option to buy. They just share the knife designs. This one was bought directly from Japan, from Musashi Hamono, the website. And at least I think this might be genuine, because, or at least something similar to the Nagao style knives, because it also has the characters here. Pretty much what the characters here mean that this is a registered trademark, and then it talks about the steel traditionally, and it would also have the name of the maker, Nagao, and I believe it's Kanekoma, if I recall it correctly. So yeah, and there is a law behind the usage of the knife. I don't know. More excuse me. It's more of a law of being allowed to call your knife a Higo no Kami, or a Higo knife. So yeah, that's the story behind it. This one is in VG10 stainless steel. This traditionally they would have it in aogami or shirogami, so blue paper or white paper steel, which is carbon steel. So if you recall what I said about opinels earlier, this one that I have is stainless steel, because if you get the carbon steel, you would have to oil it after every use because it will rust immediately. The same principle applies to the Higonokami knives. If you use the aogami or the shirogami knives, then you will have to wipe it down, you'll have to keep it clean, otherwise it would rust. So that's why, because I don't want to spend a lot of time on maintenance, I just got the VG10 stainless steel instead. And so for those who are familiar with knives, you may have noticed a pattern that I like knives that are slip joints for the most part. So my case, my Swiss Army knives are slip joints. And again, to recap, a slip joint is a knife that has a spring that keeps it open, so there is no lock on it. And if you exert a force greater than the force of the spring, that's the only time that the knife will either open or close. For my squid, it's a frame lock, so part of the handle actually becomes the lock. You see here, it bends inside of the tang so that I cannot close the knife. So I have to bend it back out. That's the only time it can close. The Higo knife, or the Higonokami, is what we would call a friction folder. So the only thing that's keeping it from closing is the friction of the pin onto the tang of the blade. And additionally, this thing here. This lever here is called the chikiri. So this is what you use to give you the leverage to open it. And then when you hold the knife, you press it down with your thumb. And this is going to prevent it from closing on you. And this is great, again, because with its shape, it will allow me to do excellent cuts like you would a box cutter or a utility knife. And again, you just need to make sure that you have your thumb down to not have it close on your fingers, because this thing, like the opinel, is scary sharp. It's already sharp enough that when I rubbed it against my forearm, some hairs already appeared. Even more so after I finished sharpening it yesterday. So be careful with this. Make sure your thumb is here and it will not close. Now, Raf made a very valid point. The thing is, eventually, the pin might get loose because, again, traditionally, these are made by hand, and the pins might get loose after a while. So if you need to, you would just have to hammer it so it will not become loose and it will not flop open in your pocket. That's a very understandable thing, and that's a reason why a number of people are hesitant to carry this in their pocket, especially if they're reaching inside and they don't know if it's open or not. So what I did is that I made a snake knot lanyard for this. Paracord is too thick to go inside the lanyard hole here, so I just got a paper clip and then I weaved it into the hole, and then I covered the paper clip with the snake knot, and then I have a hole here at the top so that when I can put it around the chikiri, so that's it. So now, in case I push down on the lever by accident, the paracord is thick enough that the blade will not want to come out. So no matter what I do, it's stuck there. So that's my snake knot lanyard trick. And the thing is, with the Higo, it's got a big space here on the handle. So if you have to do a lot of cutting, it forms a hot spot. It hurts after a while if you keep holding it like this. So what a solution that I came up with, and this was just entirely by accident, is that I would fold the lanyard here and then put it here. So now, because of the thickness of the snake knot lanyard, I can make the handle a little thicker to fit my hand, and it will not press against these thin edges here, and it will not hurt. So it will just do this. Of course, there's this little bit here that sticks out, so if I want to, I could just, you know, hold it out of the way, maybe like this, if I want to. And yeah, keep the blade clean. So it's probably not going to lay flat, but yeah, it's going to be like that. A lot easier. Anyway, I do a lot more draw cuts with this. So yeah, this is an accidental solution that I came up with when I wanted to do my original solution, which is just to prevent it from opening in my pocket. And yes, this does remind me on the tassels of a Chinese sword, specifically the jian. And since you mentioned that, just for kicks, I'm going to get it for you right now. Hold on. That's a good opportunity for me to stretch my legs. Bonus, but this is not my EDC, mind you. I just want to get it out there. This is not my EDC. This is a gift. So if I want to cosplay as Chai Shanghua from Soul Calibur, I have my own Jin with me. So classically, it comes with the red tassels that you would see, and you would even see it on the Chinese spears that you would see on movies, just like in Fearless, for example. So it's not the best quality. The wooden sheath or the wooden scabbard, the two halves are beginning to tear apart, and I can tell this is not like the fanciest or the best quality because it looks pretty cheaply built, but it's a gift, and I appreciate it still. And for those who know what happened, I still managed to use this in my yearbook, my college yearbook. I'll tell you just a funny story. I managed, when I was given this, this was actually given by one of my teachers, because in my college, you could study things like Taekwondo, Arnis. I'm not good with traditional sports like basketball, so I only took martial arts. I studied judo, I studied taekwondo, I studied wushu, and tai chi. And this was given by one of my martial arts teachers. And yeah, this is also important because they use this gen in tai chi, 32-step sword form. And when the time for the yearbook came, I brought this into my school because, again, I had practice also that day of the yearbook shoot, and they did not allow me to draw it, but they did let me pose with it as if I was using a cane. So that was like the fanciest picture that I ever got. One of my friends actually brought her katana with her. They did let her draw it ever so slightly for the picture, and I consider that unfair because holy cow, that was not easy. I mean, like, come on, this is not gonna cut. This is blunt. But again, I understand the worry, so I just ended up using this like a cane. how'd you get past the guard? Well, I used this for practice, for Tai Chi practice. So it was a bit easier, but the problem is I could not get on the bus. I could not get on the MRT or LRT. So I had to take jeeps or taxis if I had to carry this along with me. Even more when I was studying wushu and I had to bring the 6-foot staff. So the MRT and LRT would not let me on, I assure you. The people who are in Arnie's class have it a lot easier because their staves or their sticks are not that long. So yeah, that is how my Jin is related to the red paracord of the Hikunokami knife. That's those are the kinds of antics that I got into back in the day. All right, let's just put you back in storage where you belong. We don't have a use for you yet. You will just be a good conversation piece, old boy. When the time comes, I hopefully never need you. So yeah, amazing stream. We'll catch the rest of it on the archive. Good night. And good night to you, Raf. Thank you very much for dropping by. Appreciate it very much. As for me, I think it's also pretty late and we've been talking for a while. My throat is dry like the desert, like you wouldn't believe. So I think this is a good place to stop. We can move on to the other topics next time, and hopefully I will have time again on the next week. So if you are not yet subscribed or not yet following me, feel free to follow me, Serjay Svek. I stream and post videos on YouTube, and I also stream on Twitch, but my name there is Serjay Svek Twitch. So if you want to, feel free to join, get subscribed, and if you want to join my Discord server, it's pretty quiet there, but if you want to be the first to be notified when I'm gonna stream, feel free to join. So again, thanks everybody who joined, especially shout out to you, Thelos. I appreciate it very much. And if you want to, feel free to join up, subscribe to the YouTube and Twitch channels, and become part of this Discord server so you will know when I get to my next topics, because my next few topics, I plan to move on to my EDC pouches. Yes, I say pouches because I've got 2 of them. And I also have my EDC Altoids tin. And I plan to do a taste testing of this, but probably I'm going to be eating. There. I'm sorry. Oh, Thelos, I'm sorry. You said you're already subscribed. My apologies. I might not have caught your name. But thank you for the reminder, and I appreciate you dropping by and being very active tonight for the stream. And I hope to see you again on the next one, and hopefully we'll be seeing all of you in the next stream moving forward. It was great fun. I'm very happy that I was able to get this done. One less thing to think about. Because for those of you who know me, you know that I can't just stick to one thing, and as soon as I get an idea, I need to get it out of my system. And I'm glad that you were all a part of this, and hopefully the edited video of this will be coming very soon. So thanks everybody again for watching, and once again, my name is Kevin, also known as Serjay Svek. You take care, and always stay safe. Bye now.